Season 2 is here. As you might have heard from the last episode of Season 1, a lot of big and new changes have come. Carol and I have officially merged our two businesses together. So it'll be way easier to contact us, find us, book us as the mother-daughter mediums. And as for this podcast, Soul to Soul is no more. It was a good beginning for us. I can't believe it has already been, I think, like 6 months since the first episode.
Really?
Of Soul to Soul. So it was a very beautiful and amazing beginning journey. So it's crazy how fast it went by. But we are now Spirit Hour, the Kaylee and Carol show. So you can expect from this change just similar things from what we were doing before. So our conversations, our stories, our dynamics. But we also are going to be incorporating some new fun things with the podcast. We are going to start doing live podcast shows where we'll be giving live readings, talking to you guys live, answering your questions live. And we're going to try to do that every few months, maybe once a month, as much as we can, as much as our schedule allows for it.
And to encourage them to ask questions and send in, what they would like to hear about, and, send us an email and with those questions and stuff so we can answer them.
And you can do that and find our email or find us at KayleeandCarol.com. We launched a new website. By the time this is coming out, you guys have hopefully already seen it and checked it out, but that was really fun too, creating the new website, and we got new pictures taken, which were fun. I feel like it shows a little more of our personality together, but anyways. So you can find us now instead of KayleeMarie.net, CarolynMedium.com. Those are no more. You can now find us at, like I said, KayleeandCarol.com, where you can book with us one-on-one sessions. All of our events are on there, updated. You'll be able to sign up for the events on the websites, and just like Carol said, email us, contact us, sign up for our newsletter. It might be too late by the time this is coming out, but we are doing a special promotion that you can win a free mediumship reading from either Carol or I by signing up for our newsletter as well. Either way, even if it is past, that promotion by the time this is coming out, it's still a great opportunity, and I would always recommend signing up for our newsletter just because you will be the first to know about specials, events, promotions just like this one, so to stay in touch that way. But I guess we can get right into it today and what we want to talk about. We were just sitting here thinking about what's been coming up for us lately and what we feel like could be good for the collective energy, what everybody's kind of needing to hear, what people are kind of going through. So I think what's been coming up for us and the people we've been talking about is just this time of year. I mean, I feel like I've already been feeling a little bit of the anxiousness from the holiday season coming up, even though it's not even here yet. I am a naturally more anxious person.
I was going to say, she already got her wish list on Amazon and sent it out to the family chat for the grab bag.
I'm a planner.
Yeah. So she's already, into Christmas in some ways.
But with that and with the, holiday season, even Thanksgiving coming up, it is a big time of year where a lot of your energy is focused on being put outwards to other people, to your family, to worrying about other people, helping other people. In that way, what presents are you going to get everyone? Who's going to host the family party, and getting everything together that way that it's easy to let your self-care and your kind of rituals let go of. And we did talk about the importance of rituals the last episode of season 1, and how October was a good time to kind of start those back up, or tune into those again, because the energies are higher, the veil is thinner, it's easier to kind of get into that routine. So I think we just kind of wanted to do a little bit even of a part 2 of that, and just talk more about like self-care and rituals, and why it's important to keep that in mind, especially this time of year. So with that being said, like I said, this time of year, I feel like I've even kind of already started feeling it too, but I feel like I've been trying to make it more of a point to not let myself fall off of the self-care with all of these new things like coming up. I actually feel like I've gotten to that point where it's now, thankfully, my like first reaction is to make sure that I'm doing something for myself. And it wasn't always like that. That took a while. And I mean, I was blessed enough to get into this really, really young. So from a young age, I learned the importance of taking care of yourself and your energy. So I feel like with the change of the seasons and the energies, I've already started trying to, put myself first a little bit more. We just started going back to the gym and moving our bodies in that way. But moving your body is so important, and we might have talked about this in one of the last episodes, but because when you feel like you can't control some of the things outside of you, which we all have situations, people, energies that we feel like we can't control in some area of our lives.
Health issues.
Yeah, sometimes. That is a big one. Mm-hmm. And it's actually I was thinking about that too, because earlier this week I had a wisdom tooth surgery, and I was on one of my morning walks this week, and I was just being very grateful for my health and how I've never had any major like health situations or complications like that. Mm-hmm. But how scary just this like wisdom tooth surgery was for me. It was making me very grateful for my body and for my physical health and the way that I take care of myself. But yeah, I mean, even with that,
I drove her there, and when she came out of surgery, she still, had the medicine in her. And I was just telling her a story. I said, "Are you able to sleep?" Because when I had my wisdom teeth pulled, my father was the one to take me. And they said, do not let her sleep. Like with the medicine, you had to stay up for like 2 or 4 hours. Whatever you do, make sure you keep her up. And I remember driving home, and I was staring out the window. My head turned completely out. So I was telling her this story, and it was so I could sleep, because I wanted to sleep so bad, and I didn't want my dad to see that my eyes were closing. And he kept screaming, Carol Ann. And I was like, I'm not sleeping. I'm just looking outside. So when she came out of surgery, she was sleeping and talking a little. And I was asking her, I'm like, are you allowed to sleep? Like, and then I said, when Grandpa picked me up, and all of a sudden she started crying. And I said, are you crying? And she's like, Grandpa. And she kept telling me he's dead. And she's like, I'm like, no, this is when I had my wisdom teeth pulled out, not now. And she's like, he's dead. And then she started crying.
Yeah,
but the good part about it, are you crying again?
It just started coming out.
Yeah. The good part about it is, I feel,
I'm not even sad.
Is like, I feel like you don't cry that much. You don't allow yourself to connect to your emotions and say, I miss Grandpa. Or think, I was just watching all kinds of videos when he was sick of him the other night, and it was actually the day before yesterday. We went to Gaelic Park for a Halloween thing, which my dad's Irish, from Ireland, so when I was looking, I was like, oh my God, I was just watching videos of him last night. So I allow myself to do that. I really go fully into it a lot. But I don't think you do that much. So I thought that was cool because I was like happy then. I was like, well, it got to come out
She's
somehow.
happy her daughter's crying.
But I was glad
yeah.
that she was feeling sad or missing him. And then her eyes are still closed. And then she saw my mother who passed away. So then she was just like, I was like, oh, this is good. But what about?
But no, that's a big thing in the self-care ritual. Like we can even start there because crying is something that a lot of people have a hard time with.
Yeah.
It is something that a lot of people learned, wasn't allowed, or they were taught to go cry in their pillow and that no one else could see it. Like emotions are something that should be hidden, which is so, if we really think about it, it's such a crazy concept to teach because we all have emotions and none of us can control our emotions. So where did this idea come from that we have to, hide them, or they're only for you to, feel and see, and that no one else should know about it? It's kind of crazy to think about. But yeah, I mean,
but we've talked about this before, how like I talk about it all the time about my parents passing or this or that, and what did you say? I forgot. You said everyone handles things different, or do you remember? Because we were talking about, and I saw you were sensitive around it. That's all I remember. It was a while back, and I was like, maybe I shouldn't joke so much about. So my way of bringing up our loved ones that have crossed over, sometimes I joke a lot, sometimes but I just like to talk about it all the time. I like to bring it in if they're on my mind.
Well, two things. One, I think that is just how our family deals with a lot of things, is we just like making jokes about it. But that message has actually come up in my last couple readings, not in a row, but in the last couple months, that message has come up where their loved one is just saying, like, just talk about me more, which is really interesting.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it can be...
But sometimes it's too hard for people.
Yeah.
Or I don't know if it's too hard for people, but they feel talking about it opens the stuff up, and I'm like, open it.
Yeah.
Like, I like that part of it. Yeah. Especially if it's coming to me and I'm really missing someone. That's why I do it that way, where,
No, yeah.
My ear's ringing, so my mom's like, yeah,
we're on the right track. But yeah, it is interesting, and like, I mean, yeah, I feel like that's so much to unpack there, because number one, grief, with a loved one's passing, and why do people not talk about their loved ones who have passed? And then I feel like that goes hand in hand with not feeling safe to feel your emotions, or not wanting to share your emotions with other people. And it's like everything I just talked about like, your emotions are for you and nobody else to, hear or see or understand, and letting go of that, perspective or that teaching wherever you learned it from, and allowing yourself to honor your emotions, and allowing yourself to honor your emotions with other people around, I think is a big thing. And like I said, I feel like it goes hand in hand with allowing yourself to feel the grief of your loved ones who have passed. Like, I feel like that's some of the reason why people maybe hesitate or don't talk about their loved ones who have passed on, is because they don't want to open those doors. They don't want to bring up those emotions in front of anybody else.
Which brings me to a couple readings in the past couple weeks. This person's mother came forward with evidence, with stuff, whatever was going on in her life right now. And at the end of the reading, and this happened twice, two differdifferent people, at the end of the reading, they were telling me, like, they were very mad at their mother. Like, she was glad she came through, because almost like, I'm glad she mentioned what she mentioned, but I'm still mad at her. And I'm like, you could be mad at her. But what the reading did was allow, well, number one, her mother to have a voice, but at the same time, even if you're angry, even if you're like it still allows it to start stirring it up, or let the energy push it up and forward, where some people, we've talked about this many times, like, oh, I don't want to talk to this person, or I don't want to talk to that person. But sometimes it's that very thing that just loosens the energy up, surround all the emotions surrounding the anger, the situation, where there could be a breakthrough.
And that's what people are scared of, I feel like, or that's what they want to keep, down. They want to keep the waters calm. They want to like keep everything just how it is and not stir anything up. Whereas I feel like we want to share the importance of stirring things up a little bit, energetically.
She was smiling after, so I feel like So I feel like that fear that's there, but people don't always realize that
how healing.
Well, you have to go through the fear.
Yeah,
like a lot of times, fear itself, keeps you from like those breakthroughs and from feeling better, because you think it's so, you want to hold on to that anger or whatever it is surrounding the loved one.
Or they think like there's no point. What's the point? They're past. Why am I going to look at it? Why am I? But they don't realize it's something that they've been holding on to, that they're still holding on to, that is actually maybe even affecting them in other areas of their life from like projecting. Which is so crazy, because two things, we were just talking about this yesterday, where when you hold on to things that you don't even realize, and how it can affect other areas of your life, and why it's so important to tune into what you hold on to or what you're feeling, and but at the same time why it's so important to honor yourself and how you're feeling, to let go of what you're holding on to. And your story about your client reminded me about our gallery that we just had this last week, where there were some conversations after. It was a really beautiful gallery, but some people had just talked about how it brought up some heavier emotions within them and within their family members. They didn't get a reading, but like they were saying, they didn't even want one for whatever, because it was just bringing up certain types of things. And I think that's another thing. We started this podcast episode by talking about what's coming up for people, and I think that's another thing that's coming up for people, is stirred up emotions that they don't know what to do with, because they haven't allowed themselves to really spend time looking at it.
So like what I was just thinking, we would always talk behind the scenes, like when people had an emotional reaction, we knew that it was good. Like it was good. The session. And not that we want people to be in grief or sad or anything, but we knew that there was a connection, and there was a healing done. And now even when you see people angry, like I think at one point years ago, maybe we could have been like, oh, like we didn't make that person happy. But now that's even good to see, even if they're angry, because we know there's movement. We know that. But what do they do when that's there then? When now it's surfaced, and then it's like, because they could stay in that a little. Like, what are some things that...
So I think that's what I was just thinking about. And I feel like it goes both ways, because the difference between us right now and the people, on the other side, are the way that we're viewing it, the way that our perspective is with this anger or with this emotion or this grief that's arising. We see it as, oh my gosh, this is an opportunity. This is an opportunity to get to know myself. This is an opportunity to let go of something that I've been holding on to. This is an opportunity to look deeper, or to step into self-compassion. Whereas a lot of people have learned or been taught, that these heavier emotions, anger especially, are bad. You should not ever feel anger. If you feel it, you ignore it, or there's something wrong with you, or people,
Not just that, but I feel I've seen a lot, and maybe I've even done it myself, I'm sure. You find people, friends that you can talk to or whatever, that will validate you in your anger, But then sometimes you could keep that going too,
Mm-hmm.
and then just stay with like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, they're a jerk or whatever, and stay in that, and then nothing really, and then it's okay because you talked to someone and you were validated, they see your point, but then it's still there.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing with it still? Because it's still there. So then, you know.
And I think with those emotions, or if you're feeling stuck with an emotion like that, or an emotion that you can't, kind of let go of, that's where you have to just try to step into that observer role of just trying to understand all parts of the situation at hand instead of just your perspective. Because I feel like that's what that stuck feeling is you're stuck in your feeling, you're stuck in your perspective, your emotion. Whereas if you can honor that, allow yourself to feel that, and but then step out of that space and see, there are always other things at play. There's always other realities. That other person in the situation has their own reality for why they did what they did, or why they said what they did. And if we can try to step into that understanding a little bit more, I feel like that's where it allows us to start to release some of our stuff, because then we're not stuck in this like, this happened to me perspective, because we've spent time to see that and honor that, and then we can see the other person's perspective and see, oh, maybe they didn't actually mean it that way, or maybe, this wasn't the total reality, or maybe I can choose to see it this way. And I feel like that helps to let go of some
It
of
helps,
those emotions.
but I feel like I'm going down a whole rabbit hole in my head as you're saying that, and it does help, like the different, seeing their perspective. I think I'm able to do that. There's people that are able to do that a little more easier than others, but then I know for me, I still get stuck. So if you're talking about like a relationship, two people, a friend, or whatever, just a relationship in general, and you're able to see why they did the things they did or whatever, and release that anger, it still may come with like a choice. Like maybe you don't like making peace with it. So if it's someone on the other side, making peace with that anger, seeing why they could have done things the way they did it, but then at the same time not, so I'm trying to think of like someone from the other side versus someone here, at the same time have boundaries, I suppose, where you may not choose to, I don't know, you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Like talk to them, or get involved in the way you were involved before. So if it's like your mother, and you might have to put a boundary up, even if it's your mother, but you're still releasing that anger, you're still seeing her perspective, but it doesn't mean you have to still put yourself in that position over and over to.
No, yeah, I agree with that for sure.
But a loved one who's crossed over, sometimes.
But I think that, like, the placing boundaries and all of that, that's stuff that's all relative to whatever situation is coming up. So it's not like a have to thing with every situation. It's all relative. So I feel like things like that, like the choices that have to be made afterwards, they all come after you, like I said, honor yourself, honor your emotions, and try to see the other person's, perspectives or understandings. And if you can step into that total perspective of total understanding, then I feel like you'll have a deeper understanding of what to do next, whether it's to place boundaries or to let go of this person, or move in this way. But I feel like that all comes with time, and the first step towards letting go of some of those stuck emotions is, like I said, seeing, honoring, feeling, and understanding.
Yeah.
But So if you are someone who, I mean, like I said, this has been coming up a lot for a lot of people around us, where these things are coming up, or you're being triggered, or emotions that you're not sure where they're coming from, or all of that. Really, all we can ever say is to slow down and give yourself space to tune into that and see, what are you actually feeling. I was actually talking to someone yesterday about how that works, how inner child healing works, or how shadow work works, and what to do with an emotion. And they were saying, like, they were just saying how they don't think it would ever get that deep, or they don't see how it could ever bring them back to childhood. Like, if they're pissed off that this happened, right now, like, that's it. Like, that's all there is to it. And what I was saying, and I believe it's inner child healing, but what you do, inner child or shadow work healing, is when something comes up for you, an emotion comes up, you sit with it, you sit with the situation that happened, and then once you feel like you're done with that, which could be 5 minutes, could be 10 minutes, could be 1 minute, you have to just sit with it and replay the situation till whenever you feel content with it. Then tune into the emotion behind it. So what's an example? I was angry that this person canceled plans on me last minute. So then I sit with it. Okay, what's the emotion? Angry that she canceled plans. Okay. But what was I actually feeling? Well, I was feeling hurt that I was, left by myself. I didn't have anything else to do. I didn't have anyone else to make plans with. I was home alone. Okay, so what did that feel like? Well, it felt lonely. And then when you get to one of those deeper, like, core emotions, then you ask yourself, okay, where was the first time I ever felt this feeling or this emotion? And that's when the person I was talking to was like, yeah, I just don't know how I don't remember anything from my childhood. How would something like that come up? And I'm someone who always said I don't remember anything from my childhood before, like, 6th grade. But every single time I've done shadow work or inner child healing, I've had a new memory just pop up. And it's one that I have never, remembered until that moment. But it makes so much sense when it pops up and when I'm able to relive that memory and tune into that feeling again. And so once you have that memory, all you have to do, I mean, what I was taught, I'm sure there's other ways you could do this, but what I learned and what I like doing is visioning my now self with my little self in that memory. And I bring my now Kaylee into that memory. And I give my, inner child in that memory whatever she didn't receive in that moment, whether it's a safe space or to feel her emotions, whether it's validation, whether it's just connection or company or whatever. That's what I do, and I sit with that for as long as I can. And maybe it's harder emotions or a bigger memory, and I have to come back to it a couple times or do it a couple more times. But it is one of my favorite things, one of the hardest things. It is something that takes a lot of time. Have you ever done inner child work like that? Or
here and there, yeah.
Because it's a lot.
usually in a class or in a session, but it's exciting. Like, I'm thinking, like, I want to do more. But I was also thinking of the other day talking to someone who had an encounter with someone who basically shut them down. The person felt like, oh, they know too much, they know more than me or whatever, so they're not going to listen to me anyway. And so he didn't even bother, like, talking. And so sitting with that too. And then that can't, so say
so that's
he
the
was
same
angry.
thing.
Yeah, that could
so not feeling
perpetuate.
heard, not feeling, validated.
But what happened was it made him upset.
Yeah.
So, like, he's like, no, I wouldn't bother, whatever. And I'm like, well, what are you doing with all that stuff then?
Yeah.
And he didn't even think of it like that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I have this quote on the bathroom. I tell everybody about it. And on the bathroom wall, it says, don't let the world change your smile. Let your smile change the world. And I think about that all the time, because I think, so in that moment, his connection with this person, he just dropped down, stuffed his feelings or what he felt like, because he felt like he knew information on this topic, but he knew the guy. He already was speaking for the guy in a sense. And the guy could very well felt like that, but that's irrelevant. I was telling him, so don't let him, I said, you could still like say what you know, and if he
Just
receives
honor
it
yourself.
or not, then that's up to him. But what it ended up doing was there's more
To look at.
experiences, or there's more experiences for him to be encounter with this guy and stuff, but he just learned to shut up. And I said, but that's on you, because you have opportunity to still speak. If you know, don't hold it and think now he's creating this man or this other person to be this thing when you're not even giving the other person opportunity.
Yeah.
You know, to shift or change. But the point is, because we're talking about anger and stuff, is he was holding it all, like, and then telling the story, which is fine because I could validate him, but he was still, he had to work through it himself to be able to show up and say, you know what, yeah, that's right. But again,
that's
going back to where did this start within him? Who else made him feel that way? Who else didn't see that he was worthy of an answer or the topic at hand? Like, and then going into that, and I think that is what you're talking about. That would go back to childhood, or I always say childhood and beyond, because past lives too. You know, it's not even just the themes that pop up are our themes. You know, it's our own experiences, and they come. They won't just come up one time. If it's something we have to look at, you can look back and be like, oh, and start connecting the dots.
Yeah. But that's the thing with inner child healing, is it usually is some of those harder stuff. It's inner child. It's stuff that we've held on to since childhood. It's stuff that's shaped us now.
I was gonna say, you wouldn't even know how it plays out. It could play out in road rage, like you're angry or whatever because you're in control. You're driving, and this jerk did this, or you know. Then you feel like, well, now I'm gonna be powerful, and now I'm gonna, like, you know. And they could have like road rage, like someone who's angry when someone cuts them off or whatever. But it could have nothing, not that it has nothing to do with that, but it literally could be connected to someone shut you down and didn't hear you or wouldn't let you speak, or you allowed yourself to shy away from this conversation, and it could show up in road rage. Like, it's all connected.
And that's why I feel like that's why I love self-awareness so much. It can be complex, it can be difficult, hard, you know, all that stuff, but I also, for me, it's so interesting, and I feel like we've talked about how much we love to figure things out and understand things, but I really do love, like, I want to know why I am the way that I am, why I feel the way, like, why do I make certain decisions, why do I react certain ways, where did that come from in me?
It's not the guy who shut you, who wouldn't receive your information or why you feel, it's not that person. That person is the player in the game. That person is there to give you opportunity to rise within yourself and speak your truth in that moment, or say, he was a jerk. Yeah. He has his own perspective. He'll never change. You know, it's all about us.
And that's the thing. I feel like it's a perspective that we have on this life that is so helpful, is seeing, like, this life really is about us. This life is about me for me. This life is about you for you. And it's about you for you. And if we can see that, we can see not, this person who acted this way towards me, how could they do that, and stay in a way this like victim mentality, where we can start to see, why did I need this to happen? That's a question that I always like to ask myself. I might have talked about this already, but how is this serving me? I think that's what we said. Why did this need to happen for my soul? What can I learn about myself, about my needs, about my wants, about my feelings, that is going to take me inward, allow me to let go of old things, and allow me to take a step deeper into honoring myself and my feelings and my emotions. So if you can take a little situation like that, really it is no big deal. It doesn't have to be anything bigger than what it was. He was a person who acted this way and made me feel this way, and that's it, and I'm never going to think about it again. But if you do think about it again,
think about it, exactly,
you'll see that it's still connected to, even like you said, the road rage or other areas in your life, where it's still coming up, because like you said, there's these common themes that come up in all of our lives, and understanding them on a deeper level is what's gonna help us. And I feel like it helps us step more into like feeling free. Like that's the way that I can explain it, because people, I've thought about this, like why is self-awareness important? Why is it important to look at your shit and go within? Because there's so many people on this earth that don't. There's so many people that just go about their days and they do what they got to do, and they're good, they're content, they're happy. And when I think about, for me, what doing this work does is it brings a level of like freedom, like a level of like, I could take a deep breath, like a level of connectedness with where I am and what's going on. Like that's what I look for in this life. That's what this life means to me, is like feeling free and connected and understanding. So doing all of this work, the inner child work, and learning how to take care of and honor myself is what gets me there, because I'm not holding on to all of these things from my past, that I could be if I wasn't slowing down and tuning into these little daily, interactions to see what they mean.
I have a small little story, but my arm was pulsing when I was thinking about it, so I was like, all right, I'll share. So in 2010, I had a stroke. I, at that time, I was going to be going through a divorce. I was in my head a lot. I was in terrible stress at that time. And I had a stroke. And fast forward to the past 2 years of my life now, going through a lot of stress, lots of things. And I was just told I have a brain tumor, but not, more than likely it's benign. It's called a meningioma, hereditary and all the stuff, but it's in the left frontal lobe, which is where your decision making, your personality, lots of things. It's in an important place. And for 2 years, I've been saying, I haven't been, totally giving myself self-care. Where I can, I was, but I've been overthinking and obsessing and in a mental thought, not allowing that piece of surrender and everything that I've known and grown to believe in since my stroke 14 years ago. And so again, I'm like, well, of course, like I'm not shocked. I've been thinking for 2 years. Like I've been in mental stress for 2 years. So of course it's right there. But just connecting those dots too. And what is that telling me now? It's telling me I should start meditating. My practice, getting more closer to my practice and creating space, healthy space in my brain, literally. And my belief is that is where meditation comes in. And I have been. So I just I feel like I'm coming to that part of it now. But just listening to what your body's telling you too.
See, and that's another perspective that we've talked about that maybe not a lot of people have, is Like when something comes up in your physical body, you could just take it at that and, go to the doctor and do what needs to be done. Or, with this work, you can slow down and ask yourself, okay, what am I needing that I haven't been giving myself that, caused this to manifest into my life? It doesn't mean you did it to yourself. It just means there's a part of you that's needing attention right now that hasn't been getting attention,
and that's
or
why
the
I brought
love.
it up. Just like anger, how it sits maybe in your chest, or it comes up through different experiences manifesting an ailment. It's just been ignored attention for so long. Or not just ignored, but doing, for me, I feel like in more of a fight and flight, mental stress, obsessive thinking, trying to figure it out with so that I feel
and that's where I want to say, like, with all of these things that we're talking about, like, just play with it. It doesn't have to be so deep all of the time. Like with the physical ailments thing, like if there's a physical ailment that's popping up, like a knee pain, or like my wisdom tooth pain or whatever, like just use it as an excuse to tune into yourself and see, what am I needing? I love, this has been the longest time going in our family. Something comes up and we say, what's the spiritual meaning? We Google, what's the spiritual meaning? Maybe it has, significance. Maybe it's real, maybe it's not. But
it's always
the point. It's always right on.
Yeah, it's always right on.
It is always right on. But whether or not, like if everyone's like, oh yeah, I'm just going to, grab a random website that says this is the spiritual meaning, why would I believe that? It's not about believing that it's the total truth. It's about seeing how that resonates or how that connects to you. Why did you need to hear that message today? So just play with the little things like that. What is the spiritual meaning of this or that, like the knee pain or the ankle pain or whatever, and just see what comes up. Like just start opening yourself up to new perspectives and to new understandings, and just really play with it, make it fun
to you.
Yeah,
the door's open to you when they say, oh, mother issues with this, you're gonna think back, or a memory will pop in of where in a situation this happened, and then you just start thinking. It just opens doors to yourself.
And that's what we're saying is, such a big part in this life, to feel the things we all want to feel: happiness, joy, freedom, connection, like doing all of these little things, all of these little self-awareness things really do, I feel like, help us get to that space.
I would always say, like, we were walking encyclopedias, like you just open up one thing, like we have it all, like there's so much information within our own souls that that's what this life is about. And it's like, how do you want to learn like 100 things about yourself, or do you want to learn 2? And it doesn't matter. Either is great, but just constantly like open the book and see, all right, now what? But then there's people, I have a friend who is like, don't you ever want to just be like drama free? Don't you just want to be happy and just like not have to work on anything or not have to see anything? What would you say to that?
But that's why I say, like, bring the perspective of like just have fun with it, and because it doesn't always have to be hard, deep work. Like sometimes it's just an opening of a door for you to say, oh, that's why I do this, or oh, this is why I feel this way.
I think if you're not light like that, that just shows again, like there's judgment, there's on yourself, and then it's like, well, so sometimes. So just as soon as you said that, I was thinking, because that's probably the very person who should have some space surrounding the stuff that comes up, because there's probably a lot of judgment of, well, like, I just want to be happy. Like,
there's
why
something
is there always
wrong
something
with
to
me?
work on?
Yeah.
And if you're working, you can work on things in a light matter and release and surrender, make a new choice. Like, I know a lot of people like that. Like, oh, yeah, that didn't work for me. And then they, they let it go. So, like, they healed that. So
But
it's
the people who get, stuck in it, might have this judgment on themselves. If I'm working on something, or if there's something to fix about me, then that's bad and that's wrong. And, or I need to get to the point where there is nothing to fix about me, and then I'll be good, or then then nothing's wrong with me, instead of seeing there's nothing wrong with you at all, like ever. Like at no point in your life is there anything wrong with you. It's just uncovering, opening the doors, turning the pages within to see, just to understand yourself on a deeper level without the judgment.
And within understanding yourself, I feel it connects you more to yourself, who you are, which in turn means you're showing up more fully who you are, more authentically to yourself. So it's all beautiful things. Like, it's beautiful when you meet someone, you're like, oh, I love that person. They're very authentic and very, and truth. Like, so then we're just walking around more whole. So.
And to do all of that, I feel like I feel like it starts with honoring. You have to learn how to honor yourself to create this safe space for yourself within, to be able to go within, to be able to make it lighthearted. Because like I said, having that judgment on yourself, like if you tune into that, that doesn't feel safe. That doesn't feel good. If you're judging yourself and you're thinking that something's wrong with you and you need to fix it, that's not a safe space emotionally or energetically for your subconscious or for your inner self or for your inner child to actually come out and tell you how you're actually feeling, or these little miracles, like I said, where the memories pop up that you never even remembered until that moment. Like the space that you create has to be full of love and understanding and self-compassion for these things to be able to occur, but for it to also be lighthearted and not feel like work and all of this stuff. It's all so connected. But it's so funny, we started this episode thinking we were going to talk about self-care and more rituals, and we did in some aspects. I think it took us a lot deeper than we thought we would, as it always does. But that was a fun one today, and I think it was really, it always takes us in a different direction or a deeper direction than we think it will. And it is really crazy to think about how even as we continued talking, everything still fell into place, like, because it is everything that's been coming up for everybody around us. So I'm sure a lot of you guys have been feeling some of the same ways, and definitely continue to tell us how you feel about this episode and what came up for you or what has been coming up for you. And even if you don't want to leave it as just like a comment to the public, you can still email us and we can still chat with you guys and talk to you more one-on-one about things, that are coming up, or help you work through things in that way. But thank you for joining us for our first episode of season 2 of Spirit Hour with the Kaylee and Carol show, and we can't wait to see where this new chapter takes us.
See you next time.